Good afternoon, students. I hope I am audible.
Good afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon, ma'am.
Okay, good afternoon. So yesterday we started with the state diagram, and in that we have discussed how state diagram can be drawn. So it consists of three states, that is simple state, initial state, and the final state. And in the simple state, we saw that the simple state itself have three sub parts, that is inactive state, active state, and suspended. Now, moving ahead further with this topic, we'll see what are events. Okay, what are events in a state diagram and how it would help in completing the state diagram successfully. Okay, so here the events would be called event, signal event, time event, and change event. Then after this, we'll discuss about state diagram behavior. So I'll just share my whiteboard with you. Okay, so now we'll start with events, how we can represent events. So we know that event is an occurrence including the reception of a request. That means an action has been performed in at a particular point in time. Okay, that is an event. So the different types of events which we would be studying is called event, signal event, time, and change. Let's see what are these and how it would help us in making a diagram a perfect piece. Okay, so let's talk about call event. Okay, so this call event usually deals with the operation of a class. It is associated with the operation of a class. Okay, and this event is caused by calling to the given operation. Whenever any operation of a class is called, so we define it as call event. So in this, the operation would be executed, means what work has to be performed, that would be executed in this call event. So it usually deals with operation of the class. Okay, and the operation which has been called will be executed, and some work would be done. Okay, so that is call event. Whenever operation of a class is called, and when then operation is performed, and or we can call it that whenever the operation is being executed and we get some output. Okay, maybe a state has been changed, so that is called an call event. Now, what is a signal event? Now, whenever a signal, a request is being generated or is being raised, that time this signal event is called or executed. It is usually related with signal, or we can call it as request. For example, we yesterday we saw about an example of the powered on and off. Okay, so request for power on, so that the light glows. That means a request, a signal has been raised, a request has been raised. Then we call it as signal event. That means a request was raised, a signal was sent that you need to switch on the device or switch on the light, then that event, that action was performed. Next is time event. Now, whenever an activity or action takes place, okay, an event has happened, means action has happened due to the expiration of time or deadline, that is called time event. Okay, so we can say that whenever an event caused due to expire of a of time, or we can say that deadline is crossed. Just give me a minute. So this is the time event. Whenever an event, an action is performed when the time is over. Well, as I was giving you an example of the registration form, filling an exam form. Okay, so after particular date or time, you are not able to submit that form. So that can be taken an example. So after the deadline, what would be the action taken? What would be the next step? What would be the next action? That would be the time event. Whenever an event is caused, an action is performed. It means the link would be closed. So after the deadline, the next action is the link is closed. The registration is closed. No more forms or no more students or people would be able to register their themselves. Okay, so that is called time event, action after the deadline, after the completion of the time. Now next is change event. An event caused by a particular expression. Okay, that means maybe a condition, we can say a condition is either true or false. Okay, so in this An event, an action has been performed because of some expression, means we have compared whether the condition is true, so what would be the next step, and if the condition is false, so what would it be the next step, what would be the next action taken. Okay, for example, if the registration form is filled, you are registered. If you are not filled, means you did not register yourself, so you have to fill the form, else you would not be able to attend the class. Okay, or maybe if the deadline is missed, you are not able to further register yourself, so that is called change event. That means condition satisfaction of the condition, we are saying whether this condition is true or false, whether the defined condition is working properly or not. That is called change event. After the expression, after that particular situation or condition, when it would be verified, when we'll see both the situations are satisfied, means whether is it true or whether is it false, then only the next step would be defined, what would be the next action would be defined to us. So that is called change event. Okay, so these were few events which we would be using in uh, considering them while we'll be drawing the state diagram for different conditions. Now let's study about the behavior. What is the behavior, how we should understand whenever a state diagram is being given to us, or we have to draw a state diagram for a particular situation. So how we should draw it, how we should analyze it, how we should read it. Okay, let's see that. State diagram behavior. Now, in the state diagram behavior, we'll see three things. That is activity effects. Second would be do activity, and the third would be entry and exit activities. Okay, so these would be the behavior of state diagram. Let's see them in detail and understand what does that mean. Okay, so activity effect. Effect means what is the reaction, what is the output, what is the after effect. So, activity effect would define the behavior that has happened in result or in response to any event. Means, for example, if an action has been performed, if an action, if an event has occurred, so what is the behavior, what is the response, what is the output, that is called activity effect. Okay, so we can say that an activity is actually a behavior that is invoked, okay, by any number of events. Means an event, they can be number of events in a state diagram. Okay, there may be number of actions. So after performing, after those events have happened at a particular time, at a particular instance, so what were the results, what were the output, what were the response generated from them, so that is called activity effect. Okay, for example, if you have a window and you have clicked on some button. Okay, So the action is that I have clicked on this button. Now the response, now the output, whatever has come on my screen. Okay, maybe a new window would have opened. Okay, maybe a content was displayed on screen. Maybe a link was generated. Anything can. So these responses, okay, these responses would be activity effect. When I clicked on something, and as a result, whatever thing came on my screen, what is the response, what is the result of this particular action, that is activity effect. Okay, so I'll just write here an effect as a reference okay, the system is not working, just bear it for some time. Okay, so reference to behavior, that is response to an event. For example, if we have a state, okay, let's call it as an idle state. Okay, it can be about a web page. I may be talking about a system where it is an ideal state. Okay, now we'll have one state. Now what is the action performed, how the transition took place. Okay, so button clicked, for example, I can say button clicked. Okay, that means I would have clicked with my mouse, maybe left button clicked. It can be, okay, left button clicked, or it can be right button clicked, or it can't be any button clicked. Okay, so I have just written button clicked. Now, after the button clicked, what is the output? What is the response we have got? Something, some data, something displayed on screen. So let me write that menu visible. Okay, menu visible, a pop-up screen, or maybe a document was downloaded, something of that sort. So, what was the response of this? Display pop-up menu. Okay, here, or display any link or content or document. So this is called activity effect. So an activity can be performed at the entry level or at the exit level. Okay, so there is no condition that in the state diagram where should be the activity effect should be performed. Means after the activity, there can be any sort of output. So we always represent we always represent activity effect with slash. Okay, so this is activity effect. Okay, so we can always say that activity is a response. Activity is is a response of an event. Okay, so this was activity effect. When some action was performed, okay, transition of state was taking place from one state to another. So what was the response of this particular action? That would be always represented by a slash, and we can specify the response which has occurred, which has happened, which was generated. Okay, so this is activity effect. Now the second one we have do activity. Okay, now this is an activity or an action which continues for certain period of time or an extent time. For example, if an action has been performed, okay, so for every action there is a limited time, and at that particular time that action should be completed and we should get an response or an result. Okay, but when the action is performed and we are not getting the response or the output, then that is called as do activity. For example, I have given a uh, instruction to my system to print a document. So when I clicked on print option, the paper would be printed and I'll get a document from the printer. But if the button was clicked and there was no printout available, that means in the system paper was jammed, the action was not completed, it was prolonged, it was continued, it was hanged for certain period of time. That is called as um do activity. Okay, when an action has performed but the response has not generated, that action has continued for extra time, we can call it as extra time or maybe an extended time. That means it should be completed within 1 or 2 seconds, but it did not complete and it goes on. Okay, so we can say that is an activity that continues for an extended time. For example, okay, um, we have a state of paper jam. Okay, paper has been jammed in the printer and we are our activities, our event is not completed, and we can see a continuous flashlight is being displayed in the printer, giving the warning the paper has been jammed. So we can say do flash warning. Okay, flash warning light. I'll make it little bit big. Like this we have a state, so it would be paper jam. So the do activity is flash warning light is blinking continuously. So this is called do activity when an event is not completed on time. Now the third one is entry and exit activities. Now entry and exit activity. So in this we can say that when an activity may be bounded to an event. Okay, that means when is to enter, when we should enter a room. Okay, means we need to open the lock, then only you can enter, then only an action can be performed. Okay, when can you exit? When the time would be over, then only you can go out. So it is bounded with an event, with an action, then only an activity can be performed. So this is called entry and exit activities. Means you are bounded with some limitations, you have to follow them, you have some certain restrictions. Unless and until those are being satisfied, you cannot continue with your work, you cannot go further. You cannot means the straight transition, we can say that straight transition cannot take place. If I'll be suppose I'll talk about opening a door only. Okay, let's take an example that if the state is opening, okay, if we'll talk about opening, okay, that means entry. Okay, that means what is the transition? Okay, we have learned that transition would be always represented by arrowhead. Okay, and we would always write here transition type, what is the what exactly is happening, and whichever arrowhead would be pointed, that would be the target state or the output state. So here opening, we are trying to open. Now there can be anything. You can be opening the lock, you can be using your key or anything. Okay, so the next state would be door open. Okay, first you were in the opening state, now the door open. When the door is open, now what would be the next transition? You want to close it, door close. Okay, so what would be the next state? Closed. We can just write here as closed. Okay, we can, and again we can say that when the door is closed, then only you will be trying to open it. So here also we can write as door close. Okay, so activity may be bounded to an event. Whenever an event, an action would be performed, then only इसमें पब्लिश होगा जनरल में कॉन्फ्रेंस में वो तो उसकी लिंक क्या होगा कैसे कर रहे हैं यार ये अब बताओ कैसे पढ़ा है इतनी तेज चिल्ला रहा है हम अपनी क्लास में हाँ वो आपके दोनों बच्चे का कॉल आया वो लड़की का भी आया तो वो ये बोल रही तो तुम भेजो क्योंकि मैंने दोनों का पहले अभी मैं आपको दिखा देती दोनों का पेंडिंग दिखा रहा है मैं दिखाती हूँ मैम आप देख लीजिए देखो मेरा सिस्टम हैंग मैंने पीरियड से कम मारी हाँ पीरियड से कम मारी फिर मैं क्वेश्चन करना डाउनलोड ना मुझे मिल वो बच्चे दूसरी लड़की के Whether you can hear me or not, just let me know.
Ma'am, you're audible.
Because the system is not working, you can see the cursor is blinking continuously. So I'm not able to operate my screen. Okay, so we'll do one thing. We'll end up the class here today because already some webinar is being scheduled and it is about to start. So you all are requested to join the webinar because there your attendance would be marked. Okay. So if you want, you all can leave the session. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.